Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another scene set in Edessa: The Dark Crusade Season 2. On this swirling, brooding night, there exists a thick air of tension within the chantry of Clan Tremere. Aldric, at the urging of forces unseen, has penned a letter to the Lord of Edessa, of the entire county, resident in Antioch. He is known as Artem, a very old tremere, considering just how young the clan is. And he has, albeit with much reluctance, and also much to Aldric's surprise, as normally penning such a letter would have gotten him killed. This request for the blood certimen has been granted. And such is its severity, for it may very well involve the death of a regent, that the Lord himself has travelled to the domain to adjudicate and referee this great upheaval within the clan. The regent, the current regent, has, needless to say, been very surprised himself. And Aldric, you've had to remain within your haven, far removed from the chantry or the domain of the clan, for the regent has ordered your death should you be spotted, that you be brought before him and killed for betrayals and treason against the clan. But tonight, even he has had to kneel and subjugate himself before the will of the Lord of Edessa. And Aldric, you have been once again, whichever way this duel ends, for the last time, invited to chantry of Edessa. What is Aldric doing right now as he makes his way to the chantry? What is he thinking? What is he feeling as he approaches this moment of truth?
Aldric is seething internally, and he has a few moments along the way where it's a little less internal. The actions of his primogen have disgusted him, as well as one of the highest members of the pyramid. Aldric is very full of conviction. He believes what he's doing is an end to a tyranny, that he is liberating his fellow chantry mates as well as his clan mates. He believes that he strides with all of that conviction and strength behind him. He's prepared for this moment, in a very physical and mental and supernatural sense. And as he approaches the chantry, he thinks of all the things that he wants to say in his mind. But he walks. He walks calmly. He holds his interior as best as he can for as much of the walk as he can.
As you walk to the chantry, you see perched atop, still as can be, the stone guardians of the clan, the renowned and reviled gargoyles. The monstrous creatures that have ensured the clan's security and prosperity for the past 2 centuries. The only thing that causes them to stand out to you other than your knowledge is that as soon as you approach, you can see their heads turn towards you, and they simply give you a nod as they return to their prior stance, admitting you once again into the chantry.
As they do so, Aldric's eyes remain locked forward. And he proceeds.
As you walk into the chantry, you can already feel how the Regent has twisted this place against you. This place feels labyrinthine, whereas once you could make your way from one room, one corridor to another as if this were your very home. It was your very home. Now it is a hostile environment. The floorboards creak unnaturally as you walk across the foyer. The ceiling almost seems to press down upon you. The doors behind you close and lock jarringly as you walk through them. And the place almost seems to ooze of malfeasance. The walls themselves almost burn to the touch, the wards arrayed against you. But not so much as it prevents your passage. You are still free to make your way to the main hall. And there is one man that is there to greet you as you do so. The Lord of the Tremere of the Edessa County. Perhaps soon to be Lord of, well, all the East. He is Lord Artem, grandchild to Etrius of Clan Tremere, one of the founding 7 members of the Tremere themselves. And he stands before you, his skin alabaster white, his expression one of stern, unmoving authority. his gaze locked with yours. You are actually slightly taller than him, but this does not seem to faze him in any particular way. He simply walks towards you, his hands covered, clasped, but covered by his long robes, like the tremere of old before their great turning.
Aldric prostrates himself before this man. Not over grandly, but he'll flex his etiquette to show him the utmost respect.
As you bow and as you look at him, you see that his robes, the the large buttons that bind them, are covered in wards extraordinarily advanced even for your standards. These are banning rituals of the highest degree. You are unsure if even your most powerful magics could harm him in his current attire. You actually feel your blood slightly repulsed as he approaches it, disturbing the sorcerous power latent within your clan. And you bow, he says, I have very little to say, though I have traveled far to be here. So I very much expect that you shall make this venture meaningful.
I intend to waste none of your time, my lord.
Normally, I would not do so much as to deign upon a request such as yours. However, there has been circumstantial evidence and various other claims made from tremere of far greater renown than yourself. So I very much, and it should be stated, when he says that, he states it with a hint of resentment. He says, so I very much expect you to prove such claims conclusive tonight. Robbie?
Yep. Sorry. Yeah, he gives him another bow. Um, he wants to. He doesn't want to waste his time, and he doesn't want to provide excuses or give promises that he can't fulfill. So he simply shows another gesture of respect his way and remains as speechless as possible.
He does seem to lend credence to your various visions. And from your rather unnerving compulsions that you've received from them. But it appears like any good tremere, he refuses to divulge any further as to where they may have come from. The Regent has already taken to his position. You are free to... And he gives a rather twisted smile. It's lopsided and slightly insidious. Exchange barbs before your fateful duel, if you wish.
Will exchange my bobs and my official challenge towards him, as the ceremony dictates.
I appreciate that you are not willing to waste my time more than this incident already has.
Time of Clan Tremere and its prosperity is the precise reason for this course of action.
If it is not, well, the settlement will provide me with a satisfactory conclusion. Then let us waste no further time. Take into your circle.
And Aldric does.
Before you stands the ominous and now equally insidious figure of Alexander Richards. In your eyes, the usurper regent, a rather ironic and turn phrase. The one who has twisted this chantry, this great hold of Clan Tremere to a pale and treacherous copy of the far greater and more magnificent pyramid that it is meant to be a part of. The one that has caused so much harm and suffering and abuse to those of the clan merely wishing to serve. And around there remains several figures. You see, one second, you see Ava, the catalyst for all of this in so many ways, yet so charmingly oblivious. She looks at you, highly concerned, very worried, fearful for your safety, but also clearly supportive, as she is shielded by someone far more malicious, Flavia. Twisted, by now you know what to be the bond she has to her sire rather than the clan. She looks at you with betrayed eyes and spits on the ground where you walk. Inquires Kadar. Kadar, he has been outside of most affairs of Clan Tremere for his failure to defend the former Chantry, and as such has little to say or to express, merely looking submissive in the presence of all of his superiors, attempting to regain lost faith. And then there is Kadir. Kadir sounds ready to kill either of you, but you particularly, Aldric, for he, too, is bound to the Regent.
Bro.
And while his duty to the clan is strong, you can still see in his eyes that he clearly struggles with the bond that the Regent has placed upon him. The unjust chains that he has placed upon his great grandchild, perhaps the only true warrior the Edessa and Tremere have left, if they ever had any at all. And you stand before the Regent on his side of this battlefield. Two large silver circles, and up against the wall, one great circle lined with various hermetic symbols. 7 layers. Surrounded by a heptagram. You can feel its magic already active. It's almost securing this room, securing the certain maneuver that is to take place from any outside intrusion. All intrusions bar those of its caster. The Regent, for his part, appears in his normal attire, but he is heavily armored. He carries with him a great sword. You've seen this sword before. And it burns with the green flame of the ritual that you're all too familiar with. He looks at you with his rather dim hazel eyes. This does not surprise me. If your intention was to catch me off guard, I am afraid you have failed magnificently.
We shall see, Alexander.
What is there to see but a foregone conclusion, apprentice?
Regent.
Apprentice of how many circles to a regent?
Regent Alexander Richard, your presence and schemes weaken our order by your personal greed, thieving the progress of your fellow tremere, abusing your lessers to disgraceful excess. You're compromising our clan's existence with your recklessness. By virtue of it is my duty to the pyramid to promptly remove you from it. I hereby challenge you for treason against members of the pyramid. Do you accept?
I wonder who put those words in your mouth. I suppose we shall see after you've been scattered into dust. I accept your challenge, Aldric. Apprentice of the Fourth Circle. The Lord Artem. He turns. Under my authority as Lord of Edessa's tremere, I respond to this accepted challenge. Regent Aldric issued, by Regent Richard issued by Aldric, the wise apprentice of the Fourth Circle. I respond to this challenge with the blood settlement. Of these two minds shall battle for supremacy, the validity and merit of their claims. May whoever walk out be both adjudicator, executioner, and most importantly, issuer of great justice and security for our clan. The silver circles that you stand under, lined with the hermetic wards of the Lord, and the great heptagram that is bloodily painted upon the wall begins to glow and breathe itself into life. And as it does so, you feel the barriers of the sorcerous shield that the Sertum provides loom over you both, segregating you from the rest of the hall. as Artem stands in front of the both of you, as he says, "May the Certamen begin, and your sorceries be true." And yeah, Aldric, buddy, what are you going to do? As the Regent, he wastes no time upon hearing the words begin. He raises his hand, utters the words Creato Ignis, and issues forth a great blast of flame. Roll me your intelligence occult, please. Difficulty 5, because you're very familiar with this part of magic. And you know he can actually do it. You get 2 successes, so the difficulty for this roll for him actually rises to 8. No, it rises to 7, because your thaumaturgy level is 5, and in the Certamen, all difficulties are equal to the thaumaturgy rating of your opponent.
Does do the talismans affect that at all? Or is that nullified by the ritual?
1 second. Yes, because yes, your talisman. Yes, this is where your talisman comes into play. Yes, it increases the difficulty of the roll by a further 1. So this actually increases the difficulty of his roll to 8. Also, keep in mind when you are in the Certamen, old rule. A rule that was made after the Certamen was twisted to the uses of the clan Tremere, twisted to the uses of the now vampiric Tremere, is that anyone who frenzies in any way within the Certamen automatically cedes the duel and is to be put down immediately. Note this because fire is being flung at you.
Okay.
And that may not be the last time you may need to roll for self-control. I know you have Firewalk active. I'm just going to double check. Yeah, you are immune to rock, Shrek, so the fire shall not affect you in that way. I'll just bring it up for reference. Yes, he is going to roll. But before he does, what are you going to do, Aldric? What do you roll?
Do I know to what level he is using?
Oh no, you get 3 successes because you have a specialty in spellcasting. So he's on difficulty 9. Pardon?
Do I know to what level he is casting?
Yeah, he's casting at the maximum level. His thaumaturgy appears to be equal to yours in skill.
Excellent.
I'm going to change the intro.
I have something, but I don't think it'll apply here. Okay. The ritual extinguish allows you to put out fires equal to bonfire level, and if he's casting at level 5, that's Inferno. So
yeah, and I don't have extinguish apply to fires being supernaturally conjured. You can't extinguish them as they are cast. They extinguishes flame that has landed from, or other fires that have that are no longer under the effect of the spell.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Because even if you cast it and it turned into fire, it would still reach you by the time you extinguish it. So.
Okay, in that instance, I think the only reaction I could have is to attack as well.
Yes.
Because I don't know I don't know how I could defend against that.
No, you do not have the prerequisite counter magic to cast such a to subjugate such a potent level of magic. Although you are making it very difficult for him to do, as you cast counter incantations and cast your own spell.
What is in the room?
What is in the room? The room is largely bare. There are some stacked chairs and a couple of plaques which has two round shields and two swords and two axes on either one.
Okay.
The shields bear the coat of arms of Clan Tremere, of course, and the swords are ordained with the symbols and wardings of Clan Tremere, although you believe that these are merely for show and that they're not actually active wards.
Okay. Let the first move be a reckless one then. I will counter his fire with my fire.
We're going with the you're gonna put out the fire by creating an even bigger fire.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Well, yes. In which case, roll me your willpower. And he knows you can do this, so he will actually roll intelligence as well, because he does actually know you can cast this magic. It's kind of weird how even you guys are. I think he actually gets a lot of dice to this as well, because he's a tremere and it's a cult, so kind of, surprise. What a surprise! The tremere is good at the occult shit. Who knew? He actually rolls 10 dice, 56. He makes this very hard for you to cast.
Okay.
So roll your willpower plus your talisman, because this is your primary half. So your talisman gives you 2 extra dice.
Mm-hmm.
The difficulty for it is 10, however, because you got 5 successes on the check. For him, it is difficulty 8. I'm just going to check his out now. That is fairly high. Ooh, he doesn't succeed.
Very much not so. So I roll mine as well.
Mm-hmm. You actually get a success. Unbelievable. Highly impressive indeed.
He also botched his roll, it looks like, or did it no?
No, he rolled a difficulty 8 and he did get
right.
8. So
I see.
he does not botch. The casting does not backfire. However, as you both cast, Aldric, this is probably your first time in a Certamen, despite you being over a century of age. At Certamen, even the early Knights of Clan Tremere, perhaps because it's in the early Knights of Clan Tremere, are just honestly very rare. You've never really been of the status to ever challenge for one. As you cast, you feel your magic come to life in a way you don't anticipate. What you conjure is not the the base a crude ball of flame. Rather, it is a living, almost sapient artifact of fire. As Regent unleashes great spiked chains that unleash themselves from his wrist and his hands and his fingers, you erect a mighty barbed shield of fire. The spikes that array the shield literally clash tip to tip with the chains as it collides with them, shattering and deflecting the regent's own magic as the shield slams into him and explodes and dissipates into a great inferno. He does get to soak, because one, he actually has fortitude, and two, he also has Firewalk active.
No!
His preparation is limited, but he did actually make it.
No!
It's a level 3 ritual and it's easy to cast, so that one he actually has.
No! Counter magic.
Oh no, I'm looking at his rituals. He actually doesn't, so scratch that. He doesn't have Firewalker. I'm wrong.
Yeah!
Firewalker, but I'm actually completely incorrect. So he gets to roll his armor plus his fortitude, difficulty 9.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets to roll 6 dice, difficulty 9. To soak 3 aggravated damage. He does not get. So as the shield surrounds him, the shield bashes into him. He is only saved by the barrier that keeps him within the circle. That constrains him to it. As he actually you can literally hear the sharp charged, almost electric sound as his back and head collides with the back of the circle, engulfed in flames. His face and form scorched black by your fire. The militance of your sorcery appears to be paying dividends in this duel, as the regent appears less well equipped to deal with your aggressive magics.
He has another roll to make.
Yes, he does. He'll be spending a wolf. His burns is difficulty 7, but again, he's spending a wolf out. Okay, he gets 2 successes. So he screams out and curses at you. As he spits his curse, he begins to wield it into a spell.
Intelligence call?
Yes, you may make this roll. Oh, I forgot to apply your modifier to Oh no, you did make it. Was it 5F1? Yeah. Because you don't know this one, it's difficulty 6. You are in possession of a path, which is why it's difficulty 6.
Okay.
As he begins to incant and his burning blade begins to release itself from his hand.
Ooh. Well, I know what this one is. Out of character, but...
You can actually be a couple. Oh, wow, okay. That's... Okay, difficulty for his willpower roll will be 10 then, because, well, holy shit. This may have been an unwise rule to implement when we're dealing with individuals who can roll 9 to 10 dice on their occult rolls.
It definitely makes it exciting, I tell you.
It becomes a war of attrition and high-stakes rolls at difficulty 9+. Yeah, you understand. There are two paths this could be. Right, not two paths, but rather a path or a ritual. He's either animating the weapon or using the low sorcery that you yourself are aware of. Uh, the one known is power over motion, known to the tremere as potestas motus. That's how Ian counts, and the sword flies into life. And because you got 7 successes, in a way that's faster than the strongest, the fastest, most dexterous human, and seems to heft with a weight of unnatural strength. He's clearly very well versed in this particular path of sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
And not only that, his sword appears to be empowering it, leading you to believe that this sword is his talisman.
Mm-hmm.
So, what shall Aldric do in response?
Aldric would like to attempt to use the power of motion to take it for himself.
What is your level in power of emotion?
I believe 4. 4, yes.
Okay. In which case, because you are 1 level below him, you will take a +1 difficulty modifier to this roll, which puts you at 6. I'm actually going to have him roll as well. He's going to roll on difficulty 7.
Okay.
He's no idea what you're capable of, but he is very familiar with the path magic that he is using. So he does get to roll for it, and he gets 4 successes, which raises the difficulty of a roll to a very high level.
Mm.
So you're both rolling a difficulty 10. To wrest control of the blade, as he flings the blade at you, you try and force it back, and the blade is stuck in the center of the battlefield.
I want to clarify. Aldric, if he succeeds this role, if he wins the contest, his goal is to bring it to his hand.
Let's see what you're trying to do. Yes, as his blade will fly at you, and as it flies, it literally rips up the ceiling and the floor. Kinetic energy swirls around it, as you instead attempt to control it, pushing aside the shrapnel, the wooden shrapnel of the floorboards and the ceiling, and control the blade and twist it around so that its hilt is facing you and draw it into your possession. So we're going to roll willpower.
Difficulty 10.
Great. You made it before, you can make it again.
I have faith in myself. Heart of the cards.
Oh, the cards. Well, he botches. I think because of the nature of how I'm applying this rule, we will say that botches do not apply.
Okay.
Otherwise, we are going to be botching for days. So
we equally fail.
So you both equally fail. He tries to fling the sword at you. You are able to twist its path away from you as it flies into the ground again. uh, leaving just this small trail of destruction behind it. As it's halted, it constantly twitches as if trying to force its way forward further. You're able to effectively stop it, but you're not able to take control of the weapon.
Okay.
It is but a few feet away from you, but it is outside of arm's reach. As the laws of physics become increasingly irrelevant within this settlement, as uh, pieces of the floor begin to lift up off the ground and just begin to float there, sizzling and smoking from the acrid heat of the recently unleashed fire. And once again, is your turn, Aldric? You do.
I'm going for that sword.
Okay, let's roll again. Um, he only gets one success this time, so he actually fails to see that. He actually fails to recognize that you're still attempting to retain control of the sword. You bluff him out.
Mm-hmm.
You literally go to incant another spell.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and narratively say that that Aldric Aldrich, prepares. He banks an arm in one specific way, or actually, no. He casts. His arm is aside in the same stance. In the same stance that he would normally cast Creatio Ignis, and instead does something entirely different.
Okay. I'm not applying. I should also mention I'm not applying a region's wound penalties. We'll say it's because Settlement is awesome. And the laws of physics don't apply. Why should this man's bleeding?
This is a magical duel.
This is
Things
a
don't make
magical
sense.
duel. There is no pain. There is only death. So he actually gives up on the sword. Or rather, he half gives up on it. You're still going to have to fight for it.
Mm-hmm.
You can still see him murmuring counter incantations into his next spell, but he's uttering a different spell. Roll Intelligence Occult to figure out what it is. Difficulty 8.
Alrighty. Oops. 2 successes.
Okay. 2 successes. You understand as you see him weaving these incantations to try and keep up his potestas motus over the weapon. As you do so, you see he's weaving a new spell into it. It's a sorcery that's very powerful. It's a high sorcery. It's a greater path, but one you do not actually possess. And as he continues to cast, you realize what he's trying to do. He's casting the the Potestas Vitae.
Oh, I was afraid of that. Oh, fuck. All right.
And you know what he's going to do with it. He's completely changed strategy. He's planning to steal your blood and simply render you into torpor, making you unable to fight.
Mm-hmm.
You make the roll for him. I forgot to actually roll his additional stuff for Potestas Modus, but it's fine. He's going to roll his willpower now. Difficulty 8. No, 7, because your thaumaturgy rating is 7. And your talisman puts it at 8. Meanwhile, you're at difficulty 7, Dirk. Because you got plus. He gets the +1. You get the +1 from his roll, from him figuring out what you're trying to do and trying to counter it, and +1 from the fact that his talisman is still technically within his possession.
Okay.
He's using Potestas Motus to hold it, so it does still count as being within his possession and his ownership.
I thought he abandoned that grasp.
No. Remember, you still have to roll to grab it, and you still have to beat him to do so.
Okay.
He is weaving counter incantations to try and maintain hold over the blade, so. But yes. He is going to roll now. Oh, wow.
Jesus.
Fortunately, he can't actually steal that much blood. Oh no, it's 1 blood for every success. So yeah. Oh.
Ouch.
That's gonna suck. Aldric, have you made your roll?
I'm not, but I'm going to.
Okay, you get 2 successes. You grab the blade from him, rendering him substantially weaker. But as you do so, as you grab the blade, you take it from him. You see blood rip itself away from your flesh. Literally almost. How much blood do you have in your system currently? 15?
Currently 12. I've been accounting for the blood loss for the spell counts, or for the casting of the spells.
He literally rips apart half your blood pool. It congeals into a massive ball at the center of the battlefield before entering his body. He's literally engulfed in your vitae. Yet he remains completely bone dry. And you find yourself. The sheer shock from losing such blood almost triggers your beast in and of itself. Even though you know you're not hungry yet, you know if you were to take so much blood from you again, you would enter hunger frenzy.
He yells out at that. Yeah!
It is perhaps not you yelling, but your beast. You can actually feel it in your throat. And we're going to roll again. And this time, you may do as you will. He is substantially weaker to your magics now. You possess his talisman.
Oh, I know exactly what I'm going to do.
He loses all benefits the talisman would give him. And in addition, it's far more vulnerable to your magics.
He is. Sword in hand. As a matter of fact, Aldric points it at him. He points it at him and yells out, some shit in Latin, and and casts maximum fire.
Maximum fire. I'll keep in mind that you've been spending blood for this, right?
I have been. This puts me down to 5. I have to make my thirst rolls at 4, I believe.
Just making sure you know. So you receive 2 extra dice to this roll, and
I get minus
an additional 3.
Do I gain 3, or is it a minus diff?
Yes, you get an additional 3 dice.
Okay.
So you get to roll your willpower +5.
Mm-hmm.
And well, he's also roll me intelligence occult. Now that you've actually seen what he's trying to do, because he seems to be dedicating himself to the same strategy, you get a -1 diff. So difficulty 7. Because the incantations are often different, even if a lot of them are uniform.
Wasn't it 7? No, it was 8 last time.
It was 8 last time because you did not know the ritual. Actually, I'll also say because you have his talisman, actually just make it standard diff, because his talisman gives you a sympathetic connection to him that allows you to figure out what's going on.
May I spend a point of willpower on this roll?
Yes.
Okay.
You can't spend willpower rolls, but you can spend it on any other roll you make this scene.
I will always ask permission because the storyteller's consent is first and foremost, and I will not hold this as any sort of standard. So
okay, go ahead and roll it. Roll your 9 dice, good sir. Okay,
4 successes total.
4 successes. That's 4. 4 plus the 1 extra diff. So he's rolling difficulty 10. So you've made it a lot more difficult for him this time. Perhaps it's because you possess his talisman. Perhaps it's because you possess 2 talismans that your magic becomes invigorated with power that you've never really brought forth before. As you see, as you possess his talisman, you see his silver circle dim, and yours almost burst into flame. It glows with unnatural life. The silver literally begins to melt. The circle itself begins swirling around you. Its form barely coherent, apart from the warding upon it, apart from the hermetic symbols, which wheel around you with a degree of unerring precision and certainty. And yeah, go ahead and make your roll. He will make his difficulty 10.
And mine is it difficulty what?
Yours is a difficulty. I think it's 5.
Hot.
Let me
Oh, you don't have to do that.
He gets 3 successes, so it's difficulty 8. You only need 1 success because you only need 1 success to actually hit him with the fire, and you get a lot of extra dice.
Is that diff 8 including the talisman?
Yeah, it doesn't modify the diff. It just gives you a lot of extra dice.
I thought it did when it's on the primary path.
Oh yeah, no. You get 3 additional dice to hit him, and another +2 from your talisman. So by possessing his, you get +3, and by possessing your own, you get +2. So you get 5 extra dice total.
Okay.
I'll be very salty if you fail this roll.
Me too. This is like
13 dice, so basically rolling 13 willpower.
Is it 13 or is it 12?
What's your willpower currently? So what's your permanent willpower?
Permanent is 7.
Your permanent is 7? Oh, then it should be.
Yeah, I'll gladly buy it up if I survive this.
This is actually a very good excuse to buy willpower. Yes, you'll be rolling 12 dice. Okay.
Here goes nothing. Woo!
Fire obliterates him. He gets to roll 8. Difficulty 10. What the fuck is that roll? What the fuck is that roll, Aldric? Oh my god. Roll. Wow. I should just pretend I'm an ST all the time, man. I get all my best rolls when I'm an ST. Fortunately, this isn't actually going to matter too much, as he drains blood from you, but your fire literally burns through it as it courses through the air.
I still lose those blood points, though.
You still lose those blood points. You are very hungry, and you'll need to roll self-control immediately. Difficulty 8, because there's so many things around you can just feed on. But you unleash an enormous burst of flame. As the magics of your opponent's talisman empower your magics against him, and your own talisman, your ring, summon forth not really a weapon, just a great jawed serpentine monstrosity that devours him as you strike him with a measure of flame you've only heard of in Tremere's antiquity. Such is the amount of sorcerer's power unleashed under the Sertaman, that you unleash a force that you'd never be able to conjure otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
And he will roll to soak it at difficulty 9. And, well, with the rolls he's been getting, he only gets the one success. He's going to have to roll again. This time I'm not going to have to spend a willpower, because he is now mauled. He does succeed. But he is now on the verge of defeat. Can you please make me a hunger frenzy check, as you are now on a very, very low amount of blood.
You said self-control difficulty 8?
Mm-hmm. You may spend a willpower.
Thank you, I will.
Okay, you actually succeed. Because of 2 successes, you do seem to emit a faint degree of control over yourself. And for the final round, or what may be the final round, whoever succeeds, Aldric, your opponent is rejuvenating themselves from your lifeblood, but you have them on the ropes physically. They are almost done, almost dead. You know it would not take much more, even if for a natural hardiness, which has gotten them this far. Their armor, which is so heavily burnt, it's literally glowing white hot and scorched. It would not take much from the power you've unleashed to kill him now. So would you like to make me one final roll at difficulty? I'm gonna have to roll again. What are you gonna roll? What power are you gonna use? You're gonna use the same power again?
Oh, I have to.
Okay. It makes this one a lot harder for you. Difficulty 9. Okay, it's difficulty 9. You can do it, buddy.
Alrighty. Man.
You have 12 dice. You roll that shit.
2, 9, F1.
There we go. Getting rolls is half as good as he is. You actually do. You get a very good roll. I'm not going to make it simultaneous here, because even if he were to succeed,
if he were to
succeed, one chance. Still got one chance.
Yeah.
No, he falls into torpor. As you, what fiery conjuration do you emit from your 2 mighty talismans to bring low the Regent of Edessa?
With a rage full in his face, pointing the Regent's own fucking sword at him. His hair probably whipping around like a goddamn Super Saiyan. He monologues a little bit, because I can. And
you're a tremere on the eve of your victory in a
yeah,
fucking wizard's duel. You better fucking monologue like a
he
proper
says,
villain.
"You mistake me for an apprentice of the Fourth Circle, when in fact I am a scorching field engine, and you're I meant to say siege, fuck. Siege engine. And your destruction is only fitting by the grace of God and my hand. You will die! And from the sword erupts a dragon, an enormous feature, predecessor to the Tremere themselves, and the paragon of the element of fire. It flies out and barrages the form of this crippled man, barely held together, and he's blasted in flames.
Most of his limbs are torn off. He's missing half his face. Really, there is nothing more than torso and what remains of the skull. Had you damage it any further, he'd almost certainly be ash.
His first immediate action, if I may, he will reach out his hand to his second. I didn't choose that out of character. I leave it up to you. But he reaches out to his second for the vial of blood that he had them hold, and he will drink it.
Yeah. It's not from a human, so you don't have to roll hunger frenzy. If you're tasting fresh blood from a person, you'd have to roll to not drain them dry, but because it's a vial, you more or less just drain it dry and you don't really risk anyone, so there's no point. Mm-hmm. You drink it. As you do so, after you are done, you see that the Sertaman has faded. The wards upon the ground stop wheeling and circling you, and they fade back into mundanity. The silver simply evaporates into the air. The heptagrams, the bloody heptagram that signifies this place as the place of a certain duel. It is simply gone. It simply fades from view as if it was never there. And the great mystic barrier separating you from the rest of Rotterdam fades. And you see the Lord step forward. You see Flavia literally collapse and burst into tears. As if you just murdered the only friend she'd ever had in the world. As Ava kind of clutches at her, desperately trying to comfort her with empty platitudes. In a very vain attempt to understand and help her from her misery. And you see Kadir here does not move a muscle, but his hand has placed itself upon the hilt of his sword. You can see it's gripped ever so tightly, as if he's ready to kill you at a moment's notice. His eyes kind of stare emptily into you, as if he is the one to duel you next. No. Artem steps forward. With him, you see that the two gargoyles from outside have joined him. Perhaps they have entered during the duel.
He bows with all of the etiquette he has to muster, even in a semi-tired state.
Aldric the Wise, an apprentice of the Fourth Circle. I pronounce you a victor of this blood settlement. Under my power, I pronounce you as the new regent of the Chantry of Edessa.
Thank you, Lord Art.
Victory, you have proven not only superiority as a tremere, but the validity of your claims of treason against this a clearly fallacious and overly ambitious, greedy, dangerous traitor and wretch to our clan. I expect all present to defer to the new regent. As if he had always been in charge. Should there be any hint, suspicion, modicum of resentment, betrayal, or the same paranoid and self-centered ambition shown by our late regent, you shall be put to death. He literally says that to the Flavia, which is literally crying on the ground.
Actually, regarding that, do I need to roll to determine that she was bloodbound to him?
It's pretty obvious.
Okay. Would
You
the same
act in this way unless you genuinely love someone, or more likely are bloodbound to them.
Mm-hmm. Would the same apply to Kadar? Or is it Kadir? I think it's Kadir.
I think I do. I think I maybe double check. Maybe double check for you. I do not expect such pathetic weakness from one of our magisters. Stand up, Flavia. She can barely register him. His name is Kadir, by the way. It is Kadir.
Okay.
Or should I have your grandchild place you? Aldric did for your sire. She manages to make incohesive. She literally gets on all fours and just bows to him, desperately trying to hold back her tears. Look at me. Reclaim his heart's blood. It shall not have what remains of him wasted. As she looks at him for a second, stunned.
Did he just declare that he was going to diablerize old dude?
No, he just told Flavia to diablerize him.
Oh, shit. Yeah, Aldric will break etiquette a little bit and he'll step forward. A word, my lord.
No. He raises his hand and he looks at you with a measure of barely contained violence in his eyes. And he looks back to Flavia and he says, "Do it." And you see her get up and walk on over to the former regent. Uncontrollably weeping, and eat him. And as she's doing that, the Lord turns to you and he says, "I do not expect any such objections given that I just made you ruler of Edessa's tremere. While it is crass, it is true. We cannot afford to waste resources in our uncertain position within this region. We must make use of every resource we have at our disposal to survive. And for the traitors, they cannot be afforded any quarter in an afterlife, and should their remains serve a purpose to our clan, then so be it."
Out of character, because Robbie's fuzzy on this, does the blood bond break when the Dominator dies?
Yes.
Okay.
Echoes of it may remain. The blood bond breaks, but some people may still act as if they are bound to it if they're particularly weak-willed or actually cared about the person they're bound to. It's a little inconsistent, but the blood bond breaks from a mechanical perspective and usually from a narrative one as well.
Okay.
So his death would break the blood bond of anyone he is connected to. And Aldric could also know that anyone who has a blood bond to someone who dies, to their regnant, as they're called, dormitors for ghouls.
Right, sorry.
It's effectively the same thing, so I don't mind. If a regnant dies, not only does the blood bond fade, but that person knows it.
Okay, excellent.
As in, it literally shatters. Like, you would know this person died if you were bloodbound to them. So anybody who is bloodbound to Alexander Richard will know that in this moment he is dead. In fact, he just died.
Okay. In which case, Aldrich, with just a bit of emotion in his face, nods to his lord, and bows as an apology.
He looks at you, the same stern look of authority. He is completely unmoving. The only semblance of emotion you have accrued from this man is when he gave you that dark look of almost unretained cruelty. Or barely retained cruelty. Which might give Aldric slight pause as to what this figure might have even been considering to do. Should he have actually decided to act upon it? But he simply says, "I assume you can handle the title of Primogen. No doubt the court of Edessa will ask what has become of the poor Alexander. If they do ask, which I expect them to, simply state to them that he has been recalled to Vienna." Aldrich, you know that recall to Vienna has multiple meanings in tremere culture, one of which does literally mean they've been executed.
Oh shit! Can you hear me? Okay. Out of character, are there any other kindred outside of Clan Tremere that know that their headquarters is in Vienna?
Tremere is actually one of the few areas which is ran by a Tremere prince, but is extraordinarily secure. I believe currently the head chantry actually might be in Sioris right now. Let me double check for you. In which case, I'll say recall to Sioris. But
well, regardless, my question is if other clans know that, because I know it was a pretty important note of fact that when others found out where the main chantry is, they did bad things to it in canon.
One sec. Oh, the Prime Chantry in Vienna is hilariously secure. Anybody who tries to okay, yeah, no, recall to Sioris then, not Vienna, as the Prime Chantry still actually exists within Sioris and not Vienna, although Vienna has an extremely large and powerful chantry as of right now. So, not actually the Prime Chantry, however. Okay, so yeah, correct, my former state. Recall to Sioris. Which again carries more or less the same connotations of we killed him. Needless to say, they have no authority to butt in on internal matters of the clan. I hope that you'll be able to attain the position of Primogen, but if you wish to leave it to another of ours, you are free to do so. After all, I hear it takes up a substantial portion of one's time. You may wish to defer, but I leave the choice to you as the new regent. I believe you should get back to managing your new chantry, given that your affair with the prior regent has left us in quite a state. Kind of looks around the room, looks at the ripped up floorboard and the damaged ceiling. The burnt crater you've left. where the regent was on the walls. This place would have burnt to the ground if it wasn't properly warded and isolated by the Sertaman. This you would have literally destroyed this place. But he just looks around in like a very mechanical fashion. He looks back at you. His neck movements are very smooth, very efficient. I believe this concludes business as he looks over to Flavia, who is now reduced the former regent to ash and appears to be quivering and shaking and crying out, but you're not sure if it's in pain, misery, or joy.
Can I peony?
Roll me peony. Difficulty 8.
Sure. Would my merit come into play?
Yeah. You can also use aura perception if you want. That's actually very useful for determining people's emotional states. In fact, it's arguably, well, indisputably superior, considering it is a supernatural power.
True, the supernatural power will tell the emotions, but the peony itself might tell more behind it. Would I be permitted to do both, or would you give me like the results of both type rolls with the successes from?
I will say aura perception will give you far more information than any mundane peony.
Okay.
As peony is literally, it tells you the emotions unobfuscated, unobscured, truthfully, completely honesty, and if you get a decent roll with far more detail than any peony check. Because that is entirely mundane.
Let me see here. So it is perception empathy difficulty 8. That is 90, 10, 22, 8 F1. Oh, I can reduce it by my levels and aspects. That's right. So it is difficulty 4 instead. If that's, if that's still, you good with that?
Yeah, your heightened senses reduces difficulty of the roll.
Okay. Is a total of 5 successes.
Oh wow, what an aura! You've never seen anything like this. You're literally witness someone at the apex of diablerie. The colors are immensely vivid, contrasted by the black veins that protrude from her chest. You see an almost indefinite mixture of colors. It's like a strange. You would call it almost like a rainbow in some ways, but it's more than 7 colors. It's the main bulk of the aura is made up of red and orange and silver. But then, kind of leaping forth from all of them, there is pure gold and violet that just seems to overcome all of them. It just protrudes from the same place as these black veins. You can tell that this joy and this excitement, this ecstasy comes from the act of dabblery. It has almost consumed every other aspect of her emotion. As broken as she is, as miserable as she is, as she continues to weep, it is no longer just out of misery. It's not out of loss anymore. It is out of the most sinful and destructive act of dabblery. But you can also see tinges of fear and brown. She is struggling to cope with the ethical consequences of her action, even as she is consumed by the sheer joy of it.
Mm.
And you can tell from this aura that she is immensely emotionally confused. The colors are mottled, but also rapidly rippling. She appears to be in this state of sheer bewilderment and in a state of almost frenzy. She in many ways is feeling almost everything. She needs to say, despite the joy, the ecstasy of the Aldric, she's in a very dark place, and appears to be really unable to process these emotions right now. That is what you see. And she then stands up and she curtsies to the regent and she says, "My apology." She's not the regent. She curtsies to you, the new regent, and curtsies to the lord. And she says, "My apologies, my lord, my regent, for my reprehensible behavior before you this evening. I assure you it shall not happen again." You still see the same emotions in her aura that are then washed over by, it's not really washed over, rather you see a tinge of light blue. It appears to be a very frail attempt to suppress her emotions. And you can tell on the surface, I mean, if you weren't perceiving her aura, you would know her to be eerily calm.
Mm-hmm.
But clearly she is emotionally extremely confused and broken. But she does not show it anymore, as she almost has gone back to this default, borderline fugue-like state of subservience to her superiors. And or should we say, honorable, to return to a more cohesive and honorable state of mind to better serve the clan's needs. As the Lord turns, barely acknowledges her, as he says, "I expect great things from you, Regent Aldric."
And great things you shall receive, Lord Autumn.
Excellent. Then everything moves forward as it should be. And then, with our business concluded, I shall return to Antioch. I expect regular reports on the ongoings of Edessa and this chantry the old regent was. And temperamental in the messages he sent to us.
May I see them, my lord?
His office is yours. You need not my permission. But what he has sent to me is for me alone to observe. Good evening, my new regent. And in a flash of light, he simply vanishes.
Aldric, Aldric turns from the flash of light and looks upon his chantry mate.
My regent, what would you have of us?
I wish to make myself plainly clear to everyone present. The disgraceful acts of our former regent will not be replicated by myself. Should my status be compromised, should you see me act in such a vile state, I encourage you to repeat the events of today. But let it be known, the pyramid is built to succeed. The pyramid is built for progress. Under this roof, and any that we collectively may occupy in the city of Edessa, in or around it, thievery will not be tolerated. Not in the slightest. If you are known, if you are caught thieving from your fellow tremere, their research, trying to pass it off as your own, you'll remain ash in a jar in my office. And there will be no mercy.
Then, until declared otherwise, I shall act as your magister and ensure that all of your decrees are enforced upon this sacred domain of Clan Tremere.
He extends a hand to Flavia.
She that's an interesting thing to do. She looks at it. Her aura is just very mottled right now. Very confused. Still the same emotional fractures, but much more confused than it initially was. She doesn't really know what to make of this, it seems. So she just kind of looks at it until you, like, do something. Or maybe until a few seconds passes and she gets the message and just kind of takes it.
He'll say something before then. He'll say the nights before the past. That is where it exists, and that is where it belongs. And Tremere moves forward. The pyramid rises. It does not crumble.
The pyramid ascends, my regent. I shall ensure that the events of the past do not color me in any particular way in the service of my new regent. She gives a smile, and it's clearly insanely plastic, given that what you see in her aura. Again, if you weren't reading her aura, it would actually come across as genuine. There is no. She does have elements of bitterness in her aura, but she had that before. You're not sure if it's towards you or towards the regent or the situation in general. But with that, she will simply put her hand on her chest and bow, and will say, "If I may excuse myself, my regent, I believe we have to animate some assistants in order to clean up this dreadful mess.
You are correct. And to the rest of the Chantry.
Yes.
May,
Oh, sorry. Just from talking about. Go ahead.
oh, sorry. Any kind of he kind of takes a step back from her, and like he moves his head around to each member, making sure that like they understand he's addressing everyone. He says, "This is a place of progress. This is to be our home. Our enemies are many. They do not need to be. And among them do not need to be ourselves. I wish you comfort in these halls. I wish you security under this roof, and any we may occupy. Given what has happened, I would understand if you do not yet feel secure, if you do feel your foundation shaken. I hope to remedy this in time. To understand that this chantry will not be the same one as was led by the late Alexander Richard. We will be better. Immensely.
I will aid you in this transition, my regent. There is much to go over to ensure that the operations and securities of this chantry remain as unimpacted as possible by current events. But as I said, I shall briefly take my leave to have this mess cleaned up.
Certainly. Um, mm,
She'll go to leave unless you
oh,
say otherwise.
he says, man, what, what,
Man, hey, Flavia.
what does she have, like, currently apparent on her person?
She's wearing sort of green she's dressed fairly modestly, almost like a common person. Sort of greenish looking tunic and dress, like slight large kind of skirt gown. And she says, actually, before I do leave, there is a final matter. The effects of the regent, I assume that you shall be taking them into your possession, my regent.
I shall.
Very well. And yeah, better say something to her.
Before you leave, Magister,
My regent.
should I need to commune with you in the way that we do, I require a personal effect of yours. And he holds out his hand.
She thinks for a moment. She doesn't actually have a ton on her. She does have a sea satchels on her. She starts going through them.
You can blue book it to me later if you need to.
She hands you like a small. She hands you like some patchwork. It's been stitched rather well together.
He will accept it.
In a second, I'm just going to double check something real quick. She'll go to you. She'll bow again, and if there's nothing else to add, she'll leave.
Mm-hmm.
And as she gestures towards Avery, she goes to leave to call her to her, and Ava gives you a look as you leave. It's one of optimism, yet also a bit of sorrow, as she just witnessed someone die. And as monstrous as they are, it troubles her. And she kind of gives you this look of like, yeah, you did it. It's sort of a weak sense of comfort. She lets you go, and then she simply turns away and heads outside with the regent, not the regent, the magister. It's gonna get you, gonna get you a little to get used to your new position, even though I just gave it to you.
He will. There is one thing that I do want Ava to see, and it's I do want in this exchange of glances, Aldric to give like a sheepish smile, as just to kind of confirm, yay comfort, yay future, but also today was dark. We saw some shit.
Yeah, and you give her that look, and she kind of gives you a reciprocal smile, and simply vanish into the hallway as you feel the chantry begin to realign itself to your needs, and you feel it begin to now change itself to suit you rather than the former regent. And I think that's where we can end this scene with the ascension of a new regent and the recognition of all of his new position, from childer to sire to elder, to the very land, to the very hold that they now inhabit. And thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. And we will see you all next time.